Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 480, an intro to worship, part one. The power to worship Yahuwah Elohim in spirit and in truth. The podcast objectives are analyze the primary objective of worship, analyze the link between worship, purification, and transformation, and analyze the spirit and truth factors in divine worship. The first of 7 prime opportunities. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 339 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we revealed how reverence, i.e., the focal degree of the fear of Elohim, defeats irreverence, i.e., the focal degree of prejudice. From now, we must move on to the next degree of lawlessness in our path. We, my friends, must defeat the spirit of blasphemy by unleashing the power of worship, i.e., the critical degree of the fear of Elohim. By definition, worship is an adoring veneration or regard for a person or a thing, to perform an act of ardent devotion and love. Now, the first thing I would say concerning this definition is this: worship is the first interval in your quest when you can confidently begin to say, I love Yahuwah with some degree of accuracy. Here is why. You cannot perform an act of ardent devotion and love to Elohim if you are not walking in the fear of Elohim. And as worship is the critical degree of the fear of Elohim, it is the juncture in your quest where you pass the first of 7 tests, which are designed to prove your love for the Most High Elohim. And this is the primary objective of worship. It is to live our lives in complete adoration of the Most High Elohim. Now, we analyze this matter in our intro to reverence. In that podcast, I revealed how the fear of Elohim is the first major test of love you will encounter in your quest. To wit, it is the first of 7 prime opportunities you will be given to prove your love for the Most High Elohim. This speaks to a critical facet of reverence and why I spent ample time analyzing your war with irreverence. To wit, reverence is the focal degree of the fear of Elohim. Ergo, you will never pass the first test of love in your quest if you have not unlocked the power of reverence. Notwithstanding, the fear of Elohim does not end with reverence. Quite the contrary. Reverence evolves into worship, i.e., the critical degree of reverential fear. For worship is the end result of complete reverence. Not only this, but worship is also the primary application of purification and transformation. And the intersection of these 3 degrees is a revelation the Ruach has led me to share. Consider this. It is impossible to worship Yahuwah if your heart is not pure, and purification is an evolution of transformation. And the fundamental objective of transformation is to transform us into men and women who worship Elohim in spirit and in truth, both of which are pure. How your divine nature becomes strong. Now, I would like to begin this section by analyzing the first revelation in the last section. That is, the reality that you cannot engage the Father in divine worship without a pure heart. Let's talk about it, shall we? First of all, Matthew 5:8 is revealing, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim." Now, to begin with, this verse lends itself to the primary illustration of reverence vis-a-vis the eyes of your heart. Remember, by unlocking the power of reverence, your heart obtains perspective, which empowers you to succeed in your execution of the Father's will. Not only this, but the primary application of purity, as we just stated, is worship. Here lies a connection. To wit, the man or woman who has purified their heart is qualified to engage the Father in divine worship. We know this because it is impossible to engage the Father in divine worship if you cannot see him, which is why worship is an evolution of reverence. And this, my friends, is yet another witness to the linear model of holiness. Now, let's talk about revelation number 2, which reveals the fundamental objective of transformation is to transform us into men and women who worship Elohim in spirit and in truth, which is huge given what we already know about transformation. John 4:23-24 is revealing, "But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father also does seek such to worship him." Elohim is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Now, these verses confirm that there are two primary requirements for engaging the Father in divine worship: spirit and truth. As you would expect, the spirit requirement is quite simple, for those who are not led by the Spirit cannot engage the Father in divine worship. That said, the question we should chiefly entertain then is, how do you know if you are truly being led by the Spirit? The answer is sure, and we have analyzed it for the full duration of this exposition on lawlessness. To wit, you cannot be led by the Spirit and at the same time operate in lawlessness. Now, we know this because you are servants, i.e., children of the one to whom you yield your members to obey. For look, listen, it has been written, "Do you not know that you are servants of the one whom you obey, whether of sin to death or of obedience to righteousness?" Here lies the inflection. To wit, the servants of the Most High Elohim are not being led into sin and lawlessness. Quite the contrary, we are being led to walk in obedient faith to our Master's will. For this is our hope and peace. This is our righteousness. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, we have not been given the Ruach of Elohim to live our lives according to the flesh to commit sin. On the rather, we have been given power to overcome the desires of the flesh by his Spirit that abides within. Romans 8:13-16 is revealing, "For if you live according to the flesh, you are going to die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim. These are sons of Elohim. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of Elohim. Now, amongst other things, this passage confirms that those who are led by the Ruach of Elohim do not live according to the flesh. To wit, we are not operating in lawlessness. To wit, we are not habitual transgressors who are addicted to various forms of sin. Quite the contrary. We, my friends, are killing out the deeds of our flesh. And in doing so, we are progressing the work of transformation. With great authority and convictions, we are unlocking all the powers of the set apart spirit. And this is why we are winning our battles with our sinful nature, our flesh, and every other antagonist we are facing in our quest. For as our sinful nature and our flesh are getting weaker, our divine nature and our spiritual man are becoming stronger. And if you think that Yahuwah Almighty, the most powerful being in the universe, has spiritually weak children, I advise you to think it over and then think again. For the only one who is weak is the one who operates in lawlessness. The only one who is weak is the one who commits sin. If you continue in my word. Now, that was the spirit factor or requirement. We must now address the truth requirement as it pertains to our ability to engage Yahuwah in divine worship. For where there is no truth, there can be no spirit. Let's get started. To begin with, we should ask ourselves the following question. How do you know if you are being led into all truth? The answer is sure, vis-a-vis, you must be led by the Spirit of Elohim. And you know that you are being led by his Spirit if you are reigning over lawlessness by his power. John 16:13 is revealing, but when he comes, the Spirit of truth, he shall guide you into all the truth, and he shall announce to you what is to come. Acts 1:8. But you shall receive power when the set apart spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses. Now, along these lines, the prevailing model of truth we must adhere to is the revelation, i.e., good news of Yahushua Messiah, for he is the truth. Ergo, the following inflection point is also the truth. When the scriptures reveal that the Ruach of Elohim would guide us into all truth, it is revealing that the Ruach of Elohim would facilitate our transformation into the spiritual standard of Yahushua Messiah. In this order, the Ruach frees us line upon line and precept upon precept from the deadly effects of lawlessness. And these lines and precepts, my friends, are all evolutions of truth, which again is founded upon belief in Yahushua Messiah, whereby we are made free. John 8:31-32 is revealing. So Yahushua said to those Yehudim who believed in him, if you stay in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 1:16-17. And out of his fullness we all did receive, and favor upon favor. For the Torah was given through Moshe, but the favor and the truth came through Yahushua Messiah. Now, these verses confirm the former premise that there is no truth apart from Yahushua Messiah. To wit, the master is revealing, if you stay in my word, you shall know the truth. That said, what does it mean to stay in the word of Yahushua Messiah? The answer is sure. To stay in his word implies that you are following his example, for he is the word. Now look, listen, it has been written, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. Look again and understand. Listen, the word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we saw his esteem as of the only brought forth of a father, complete in favor and in truth. And what did John say? Vis-a-vis, favor and truth came through Yahushua Messiah. Not only this, but John 17 is revealing thy word is truth. What does this all mean? Vis-a-vis, it means the word and the truth are both manifestations of Yahushua Messiah. Now, get this. The word is equated to the standard of Yahushua Messiah. And truth is the knowledge the set apart spirit imparts unto you to keep you in compliance with the standard. That is what it means to stay in the word. This is why Yahushua Messiah declares, if you continue in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And if you are my disciples, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Hallelujah. Now, I said all that to prove that you are unable to engage Elohim in divine worship if you are not being led by his spirit and adhering to every word of truth he reveals to you. Trust me, it is a non-starter. Not only this, but you must appreciate how your ability to fulfill the spirit and truth factors is contingent to your mastery of all the degrees that lead up to worship. My dear friends, that equates to 14 unique degrees of holiness and perfection. To wit, hope, trust, reliance, faith, compliance, conformance, transformation, obedience, honesty, righteousness, purification, virtue, values, and reverence. Ergo, before you attempt to engage the Most High Elohim in divine worship, make sure you check these 14 boxes. If you don't, you can most certainly offer Yahuwah whatever manner of worship you deem fit. And trust me, he will most certainly not receive it. For your ability to check these 14 boxes is ample proof that you have the power to worship him in spirit and in truth. Now, here is the final word. All within this set apart nation worship Yahuwah in adoration. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, worship is the key ingredient to unlocking the power of the fear of Elohim. And the key ingredient to a lifestyle of worship is the spirit of adoration. Here lies the inflection and the problem. To wit, many who were called never attained the fear of Elohim for the simple but dangerous fact that they don't adore him. My dear friends, think about that for a moment. Despite all Yahuwah has done for his people during the season of restoration, many who were called do not fear him because they have reasoned within their hearts of prejudice and contempt that he has not done enough to be adored by his chosen people. What blasphemy! And I mean literally, what blasphemy. 4. Blasphemy is a degree of lawlessness that is designed to disqualify our worship. Ergo, all who fail to worship Yahuwah Elohim in spirit and in truth are, to some degree, engaging in blasphemy. Heretofore, I recommend, don't blaspheme Elohim. Rather, be thankful for all he has done for this nation. And always remember, the key to unlocking the fear of Elohim is worship. And the key to worship is adoration. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on the word you have heard today. And as always, ask the Father to reveal the truth to you. For the children of Elohim live by conviction. And if he has not convicted you, or if you had not heard him concerning these matters, you should pray until you do. Today, I want you to meditate on the word I have shared. We covered a lot of material, and so that is the only assignment for today. Consider these matters, my friends, and be watchful as you pray. Now, here is what's next. We complete today's podcast, End Times 480, an Intro to Worship, Part 1. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 481, an Intro to Worship, Part 2. I will post this podcast on Friday, June 6, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch. Continue to pray. Continue in fasting. And most of all, continue to be focused. For the end is coming. The end is near.